This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, episode 16, part 3, 12 missing person cases. The NCIC statistics for missing people number over 600,000 a year. There are many missing children and adults that are quickly found alive and well. However, tens of thousands of individuals remain missing. In today's world, it has become an epidemic, and some cases don't even make it in the media. As a nation, we have to do a lot better to solve these missing person cold cases. They have vanished without a trace. One minute they are there, and the next moment they are gone. MJA has done reenactments of abduction cases with good results. In one case, the perp had only 80 seconds to abduct the child and get completely away without being seen. Just think about it for a moment. 1 minute and 20 seconds. Just 80 seconds. That's all it takes, and the victim is gone. It's a family's worst nightmare is when one of their loved ones disappears without a trace. Please join us as we go deep into the woods to find answers for these missing person cold cases. Good evening. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. Olivia and I will profile 12 missing person cold cases. We are coming to you from Winter Paradise, located in Hudson, Florida. Welcome to 12 missing person cases. Case 1. It was on August 23rd, 1930 is when 56-year-old Ray Sutton, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Clayton, New Mexico. Case 2. It was on April 29th, 1997 is when 39-year-old Deborah Marie Horrigan, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Case 3. It was on March 9th, 1976 is when 20-year-old Brian Thomas Vargo, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Houston, Texas. Case 4. It was on February 2nd, 1980 is when 19-year-old Christy Lynn Booth, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Midland, Texas. Case 5. It was on December 1st, 1993 is when 28-year-old John Andrews Cheek, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Memphis, Tennessee. Case 6. It was on October 25th, 1991 is when 20-year-old Felicia Lachelle Clark, a black female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Memphis, Tennessee. Case 7. It was on June 10th, 1983 is when 23-year-old Carl J. Holland, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Richmond, Indiana. Case 8. It was on September 3rd, 1981 is when 25-year-old Sharon K. Emery, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Indianapolis, Indiana. Case 9. It was on December 24th, 2001 is when 30-year-old Blaine Carl Hector, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Cornish, New Hampshire. Case 10. It was on October 3rd, 1973 is when 22-year-old Dorothy Ann Boyce, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Nassau, New Hampshire. Case 11. It was on October 2nd, 1990 is when 27-year-old William Perez Sr., a Hispanic and Latino male, disappeared without a trace from Wilmington, Delaware. Case 12. It was on October 16th, 1988 is when 26-year-old Kathleen Ann Myers, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Newcastle, Delaware. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line. And Olivia and I will profile 12 missing person cases. Be back in a moment.
trusting every clue I found, but the truth has not been told. 'Cause every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see in the dark.
Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, Episode 16, Part 3, 12 Missing Person Cold Cases. We have Olivia on the line. How are you doing on this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
All right. And are you ready to dig into these cold cases?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to New Mexico. The Doe Network has 35 males and 50 females listed as being missing from the state of New Mexico. Case 1. This case reaches the deep freezer status happening 93 years ago with no end in sight. One thing for certain, the human remains are located somewhere. Welcome to Clayton, New Mexico. Missing male. It was on August 23, 1930, is when 56-year-old Ray Sutton, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Clayton, New Mexico. Ray Sutton was a skilled investigator for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives at the time of his disappearance. It was on August 23, 1930, is when the 56-year-old Sutton was last seen while conducting an investigation in Clayton, New Mexico. It was reported that on August 28, 1930, a deputy sheriff passed Sutton about 7 miles south of Raton. The deputy gave Sutton a wave. Sutton waved back and was never seen or heard from again. Sutton's government vehicle, a black 1929 Pontiac coach with yellow wood wheels, was located in a canyon 20 miles from where the suspects were last seen. When one of the suspects was later arrested in Colorado, he was in possession of Agent Sutton's government identification. It is presumed that Agent Sutton was murdered near Raton, New Mexico, but the 56-year-old Ray Sutton's body has never been located. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Raton, New Mexico Police Department at 575-445-2704.
Case 2. Welcome to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Missing female. It was on April 29, 1997, when 39-year-old Deborah Marie Horgan, white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was on April 29, 1997, when the 39-year-old Horgan was last seen when she had been hired for a job at the Budget 8 Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But Deborah Marie Horgan never showed up for work. On June 21, 1997, almost 2 months later, Horgan's white 1976 Ford Thunderbird was found on the west side of Albuquerque. The vehicle had been abandoned and vandalized, and it looked like it had been in an accident. The items found in the vehicle were clothing, bags, and tennis shoes. There was broken glass scattered all over the back seat and floorboards of the Thunderbird. The 39-year-old Horgan has never been seen or heard from again. Horgan's mother claims that 2 weeks before her daughter's disappearance, Horgan's boyfriend raped and beat her badly enough to put her in the hospital. No charges were filed in the incident, and it's unclear whether it's related to the 39-year-old Horgan's disappearance. 39-year-old Deborah Marie Horgan left behind 2 children and a husband when she went missing. Horgan's husband died in September of 1997. Foul play is suspected in the disappearance of 39-year-old Deborah Marie Horgan. Deborah Marie Horgan's case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Albuquerque Police Department at 505-924-6093.
Welcome to Texas. The Doe Network has 207 males and 215 females listed as being missing from the state of Texas. Case 3. Welcome to Houston, Texas. Missing male. It was on March 9, 1976 is when 20-year-old Brian Thomas Vargo, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Houston, Texas. The 20-year-old Brian Vargo was last seen during spring break of 1976 during his sophomore year at the University of Texas in Austin. Vargo told his roommates that he was going to head to Colorado on a self-guided tour of the state. Somewhere along the way, Vargo's car broke down. The 20-year-old Brian Vargo left his car with a mechanic and went to his parents' home in Houston to get the title for the car. It is unknown whether Vargo found the title. Vargo's mother dropped him off at the bus station in Houston. At this time, it's unknown if the 20-year-old got on the bus or made it out of Houston. When the 20-year-old Brian Vargo didn't return to his apartment after spring break, his roommates grew concerned and notified Vargo's family. When Brian Vargo's family arrived at his apartment, they found Vargo's wallet. Vargo's family learned Vargo had dropped out of college before spring break. The 20-year-old Vargo's family thought maybe he needed time to himself. But when they got a call from a mechanic who had Vargo's car telling them he didn't know what to do with it, is when Vargo's family grew concerned. 20-year-old Brian Vargo hasn't had any contact with family and friends since March of 1976. His family and friends have had no contact with Brian since that date. The disappearance of 20-year-old Brian Vargo still remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Austin Police Department at 512-974-5250. That's 512-974-5250.
Case 4. Welcome to Midland, Texas. Missing female. It was on February 2nd, 1980, when 19-year-old Christy Lynn Booth, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Midland, Texas. It was on February 2nd, 1980, when the 19-year-old Booth was last seen at the Dimensions nightclub. Police reports stated that Booth and a female friend were dropped off at the nightclub by a male friend. The male friend took Booth's car and told the two females he would return around 11 p.m. The report reads, when the male friend returned to the nightclub, he couldn't find the girls anywhere. But yet a witness claims that the 19-year-old Booth walked outside of the club around 11 p.m. It was February 7, 1980, when Booth's 1977 maroon and white AMC Pacer was found abandoned 2 miles south of a highway. At that time, a police report was taken that 19-year-old Christy Lynn Booth was missing, was last seen on February 2, 1980. Police later found that Booth had taken her car to be serviced the morning of her disappearance. Since then, the odometer showed it had been driven 268 miles. It is our understanding that some ground searches were conducted using the mileage as a starting point in isolated areas. The 19-year-old Booth left the nightclub without her shoes and coat, and the weather was cold and icy. Due to these circumstances, investigators do not believe Booth left the nightclub willingly. The 19-year-old Booth still lived at her family home with her parents and her 2 siblings. Police said that Booth never had any problems at home and her life was in a good place. 19-year-old Christy Lynn Booth worked as a cocktail waitress at a restaurant called Great Gatsby. The 19-year-old Booth would hang out with friends at her place of employment when she wasn't working. The case remains unsolved. Our NJA staff is putting a file together. A rule search is conducted to turn over to Jason Watts, a search coordinator located in Texas. It's our hope that Mr. Watts could come up with a sound and solid plan to move the search forward. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Midland Police Department, Lieutenant Ronnie Wilson, at 915-685-7110. or 915-685-7108.
Welcome to Tennessee. The Doe Network has 29 males and 54 females listed as being missing from the state of Tennessee. Case 5. Welcome to Memphis, Tennessee. Missing male. It was on December 1st, 1993 is when 28-year-old John Andrews Cheek, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Memphis, Tennessee. At around 11 p.m. on December 1st, 1993 is when a dinner companion dropped off the 28-year-old Cheek at his vehicle, which was parked at the Crescent Center. Cheek was intoxicated at the time. On December 2nd, 1993, the 28-year-old Cheek didn't show up for work. On December 3rd, 1993, Cheek's parents filed a missing persons report. The 20-year-old Cheek's unpacked suitcase was found in his home in East Memphis. The garage door was open. Cheek's car was recovered parked at the Delaware exit ramp on Interstate 55, where the highway crosses over the Mississippi River. It was about 12 miles from John Cheek's home. There was no sign of a struggle. Searches of the river and its banks failed to locate the 20-year-old John Cheek. Just before Cheek's disappearance, he took a 3-day trip to Milwaukee, Denver, and Portland, Oregon to work on a property and investment deal. When the 28-year-old Cheek returned to Memphis, he went straight to the office telling his colleagues that he had been awake for 72 hours at one point. During this time, something went wrong with the deal. That affected Cheek greatly, causing him to leave the business trip and catch a late-night flight home to Memphis. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Memphis Police Department, Lieutenant Cindy Capps, at 901-543-2720.
Case 6. Welcome to Memphis, Tennessee. Missing female. It was on October 25th, 1991, when 20-year-old Felicia Michelle Clark, a black female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Memphis, Tennessee. 20-year-old Clark was last seen in her home in Memphis, Tennessee during the early evening hours of October 25th, 1991. When Clark's mother returned home at 6 p.m., she noticed that her 20-year-old daughter was not home. Clark had prepared her clothes for her part-time job, which started at 10 p.m., and Clark left for work at 9:15 p.m. When that time passed, Clark's mother felt that something was not right. It was not like the 20-year-old daughter to not call home if she was going to be out. Felicia Clark and her mother talked 5 times or more a day, every day. It was around November 7, 1991, when the 20-year-old Clark's vehicle was found abandoned. Nothing was missing from the home that belonged to Clark. The 20-year-old Clark's clothes, checkbook, jewelry, prescription glasses, and last uncashed paycheck were found in the home. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Memphis Police Department at 901-545-5700.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia and I will profile 6 more missing person cold cases. Be back in a moment.
I've been searching in the dark, trusting every clue I found. But the truth has not been told, 'cause every corner of these woods is hollow.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, episode 16, part 3, 12 missing person cold cases. Welcome to Indiana. The Doe Network has 65 males and 55 females listed as being missing from the state of Indiana. Case 7. Welcome to Richmond, Indiana. Missing male. It was on June 10th, 1983 is when 23-year-old Carl J. Holland, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Richmond, Indiana. The 23-year-old Holland was last seen at a friend's residence in El Dorado, Ohio on June 10th, 1993. Holland's 1973 Chevy Impala was discovered at a truck stop in Lynn, Indiana. In 1985, Richmond police thought the 23-year-old Holland was murdered, which was possibly in connection with 2 other murders related to local drug trafficking. Search of the 2 farms near Richmond and several locations in Preble County, Ohio, yielded nothing. Investigators also found no trace of the 23-year-old Holland when they searched an abandoned farmhouse in El Dorado, Ohio. But recovered in the search was a shotgun believed to be tied to the case. The disappearance and possible murder of 23-year-old Holland has been revived by every cold case department in both states without results. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Richmond Police Department at 765-983-7247, extension 7356.
Case 8. Welcome to Indianapolis, Indiana. Missing female. It was on September 3rd, 1981, when 25-year-old Sharon K. Emery, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Indianapolis, Indiana. On September 2nd, 1981, the 25-year-old Emery and her 17-month-old son had moved out of her parents' home and into a house with some friends. That afternoon, Emery left her son with friends in a neighboring apartment and said she would return in 90 minutes. According to what investigators have pieced together, the 25-year-old Emery and at least one roommate drove to various clubs during the evening and early morning hours of September 2nd and 3rd of 1981. Around 3 a.m. on September 3rd, 1981, the 25-year-old Emery and one of her roommates got into an argument while driving west on Washington Street. 25-year-old Sharon Emery got out of the truck saying she wanted to hitchhike to a lounge on North Illinois Street. 25-year-old Sharon Emery has never been seen or heard from again. During the follow-up investigation, neighbors reported hearing an argument in Emery's apartment the night she disappeared. In the 2 days between 25-year-old Emery's disappearance and her mother's missing persons report, the apartment Emery lived in was vacated. Neighbors claimed to have seen bloodstained rug beside the building. It disappeared before police could get there. This case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Indianapolis Metro Police Department, Detective Chester Price, at 317-327-6160.
Welcome to New Hampshire. The Doe Network has 15 males and 10 females listed as being missing from the state of New Hampshire. Case 9. Welcome to Cornish, New Hampshire. Missing male. It was on December 24, 2001 is when 30-year-old Blaine Carl Hector, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Cornish, New Hampshire. Blaine Hector was last seen at his father's house, where he was there to show his father a used car that he was interested in buying. But the owner of the auto dealership called police and reported the car stolen. When the 30-year-old Hector saw the police officer pull up to the house, Hector took off running into the woods behind Hector's father's home and hasn't been seen since. December 24, 2001, police searched for hours that day with there was three different police agencies from three different towns, the county sheriff's department and the state police, along with a dog. Since the 30-year-old Hector was a stay-at-home dad with two kids, everyone expected that Hector would show up on Christmas Day or called to be picked up somewhere. Their search continued the next day. In the spring, police flew over the area in a helicopter to see if anything would indicate that there was a body or a camp or something in the woods, but there was no positive results during the searches. Police even stalked out Hector's father's funeral in 2004 to see if the 30-year-old Hector would attend, but Hector was a no-show. When Hector disappeared, he was married with two children. Hector's wife has since divorced him. There is an outstanding warrant for Blaine Carl Hector's arrest in Sullivan County, New Hampshire. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Cornish Police Department at 603-543-0535.
Case 10. Welcome to Nashua, New Hampshire. Missing female. It was on October 3rd, 1973, when 22-year-old Dorothy Ann Boyce, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Nashua, New Hampshire. Nashua Police Department, in the early morning hours of October 4th, 1973, took a report that 22-year-old Dorothy Ann Boyce was missing. Dorothy Ann Boyce was living with her husband, who was the last person to see the 22-year-old Boyce. According to the husband and his wife, Dorothy, had been watching TV the previous evening before he fell asleep around 11:30 p.m. The husband claims when he woke up, his wife Dorothy was gone. But a month before his wife Dorothy disappeared, her husband had filed for divorce against her. The couple shared a daughter, and she was 2 years old when her mother vanished. Court later agreed to treat the Boyce's case as an uncontested divorce in light of Dorothy Boyce's disappearance. Divorce was granted on January 29, 1974. 22-year-old Dorothy Ann Boyce took no personal belongings with her. Many people were confident that if Dorothy left on her own, she would have contacted someone in her family by now. That hadn't happened. 22-year-old Boyce was never legally declared dead. Many feel the 22-year-old Dorothy Ann Boyce is a victim of foul play. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Nashua Police Department Criminal Investigations Division at 603-594-3553 or 603-589-1665.
Welcome to Delaware. The Doe Network has 7 males and 13 females listed as being missing from the state of Delaware. Case 11. Welcome to Wilmington, Delaware. Missing male. It was on October 2nd, 1990 is when 27-year-old William Perez Sr., a Hispanic and Latino male, disappeared without a trace from Wilmington, Delaware. On October 2nd, 1990, before William Perez's disappearance, he made 2 phone calls. The first call was at around 2:25 p.m. was to arrange a meeting to see a friend at the Scoreboard Bar and Grill. This is where Mr. Perez would hang out with family and friends. The second call was to his wife from a payphone, and he said that he would be home shortly to take her shopping. The wife believes her husband was in the bar when he called her because of the background noise. The 27-year-old William Perez's friend didn't get there until 2:45 p.m., but William Perez was nowhere to be found. Mr. Perez's van was parked on Bird Street around the corner from the bar and grill. On October 6, 1990, at 10:14 a.m., Linda Perez reported her husband William as missing. In April 1999, James Christopher D'Angelo was convicted of first-degree murder of William Perez. In 1990, D'Angelo shot the 27-year-old Perez in the head after Perez came to D'Angelo's house to collect a debt. William Perez's body has never been recovered. Mr. Perez was declared dead in October of 1997 by the Social Security Administration. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Wilmington Police Department at 302-654-5151.
Case 12. Welcome to Newcastle, Delaware. Missing female. It was on October 16, 1988, when 26-year-old Kathleen Ann Meyer, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Newcastle, Delaware. The 26-year-old Kathleen Meyer was last seen on October 16, 1988, in an area where two other females were reported missing and later found murdered. At around 9:30 p.m., the 26-year-old Meyer left her home in Brookmont Farms off Route 40 on foot. Because of a missing person, Margaret Feiner, who was last seen entering a blue van, the police were on the lookout for such a vehicle. That evening, by chance, an off-duty police officer saw a young woman hitchhiker matching Meyer's description enter a blue van on Route 40 near the entrance up to Brookmont Farms. Just bear with me, my computer's acting up.
Okay.
The officer made a note of the blue van's license number. It was later determined that the registered owner of the van was Stephen Pinnell. Serial killer Stephen Brian Pinnell was captured 10 days after the 26-year-old Meyer disappeared. The body of 26-year-old Kathleen Ann Meyer was never found. Pinnell pled guilty to Meyer's murder and was executed for her killing and several others. Even though Meyer's killer was caught, her body has never been found, so it's an unsolved case. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Newcastle County Police Department at 302-573-2800.
Is there anything you would like to add to any of these cases?
There, seems like people just kind of go off on their own in a lot of these cases. Not all of them, some of them. And of course, New Hampshire, we always know there's an issue there with people disappearing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I tend to think a lot of these cases, there's a serial killer involved. How do you just disappear without a trace?
Yeah, just like the one from the nightclub, leaving her shoes and everything, and it was icy out, cold and icy out. Yeah.
Yeah, who would do that?
And then some people said, well, she just went right out the back door, and this, that, and the other was standing by the back door. Well, even so, why would you do that in bare feet? It just, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Booth case, we've been consultants on that case for years, and how we got involved with that is somebody through Moore's room. His wife used to work with her at that restaurant and bar, and
oh wow.
So anyway, so we've been consultants on that. And then you have Jason Watts down there in Texas. He's a search coordinator, so we're putting something together for him to look at. So
hopefully it'll be found, or something will be found.
Yeah.
There's just too many cases like this.
Yeah. Okay, I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. A special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for y'all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. Never lose hope. Storms make people stronger and never last forever. The poet is unknown. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods. This has been episode 16, part 3, 12 missing person cold cases. We say to all of you, good night from Hudson, Florida, located on the Gulf of Mexico.
Every cowboy, he always misses when he's aiming at the target in his head. And every broken man finds his idle hands grasping at tomorrow's promised land. And I've been thinking about running, and I'll get out on the town just for myself. And that's when I saw her, and she looked right through me. And when I said I do that day, I really do. 'Cause every cowboy, he always misses his shot when he's aiming at the target in his head. And every broken man finds his idle hand grasping at tomorrow's promised land. And I've been thinking about riding, and when I get the first draft back with no red ink, but I've been thinking to do my best work. Yeah, I've gotta leave this town to find my way. And when that plane touched down on that island town, I knew that my life's work was in their hands. So I started digging for wells of water, and I'm a hero in their eyes. It's clear to see. 'Cause every cowboy, he always misses his shot when he's aiming at the target in his head. And every broken man finds his idle hand grasping at tomorrow's promised land. And I've been thinking about the time that I have wasted sitting here. 'Cause I've been thinking that all this thinking is the thing that keeps me further